What's up? What's up? What's... Go ahead. Who live in Southwest Florida. You know, I've often thought about that I've always lived in the Southwest quadrant of wherever we are. It's so weird. I don't know. Do you think that's like a tax revenue career standings thing, or I can't afford to live on the... Because every city is like weird. Like it's all pretty much set up the same. You know what I mean? Where it's like certain demographics live on the west side, which is usually kind of bad. The north sides can be decent. The east side always seems to be better, and the southwest side is kind of in between. Or is that just me? Yeah. You know, I want to play something real quick that I think is appropriate for the times we're living in right now. And hopefully y'all can hear us at home. Get up, get up, get up, Jackson, come on. Everybody got their checks. But sadly, you know, it's really not checks. I was thinking about this. I was going to sit here and play this and then like throw a stack of debit cards in the air because we can't make it rain with currency because most people don't carry currency anymore. It's all debit, and which kind of takes away the whole understanding of cash really and money. Excuse me, import export Steve here. What you gonna do when that there useless paper currency? Actually, that's not even useless. It's semi-useless, but what are you gonna do when that there newfangled ATM machine ain't available because all the banking systems are down, the internet's down, there's no electricity. We're at a world demise. You think this pandemic is bad? Wait until the Ruskies and the Chinese team up and invade our land. Tinfoil shit, son. I done moved away from that. Well, we'll get back to that in a second. But what I was going to tell you, if you're worried about your ATM, your currency, I will happily trade you some of my non-hybrid seeds for that worthless cash you have right now because, well, I care about you and your family, friend. Exactly, because I'm not trying to get rich, sir. I'm trying to help you and your family prepare for the apocalypse. So I want to give you some of my high quality value, non-GMO, non-hybrid seeds so you can grow yourself some corn, some tomatoes, some apples, some beets. You can't do that. You think you can go down to the local grocery store, get you a ear of corn and stick it in the dirt? No, son, because Monsanto and all the other scientific places, they done made them seeds sterile. Just like your old daddy, why he can't have any more kids because he got sterile. Same thing with your corn, your apples, and all that. That's why you need my non-hybrid seeds so that you can plant. Now, sir, I can't tell you that. That is a proprietary solution. No. Nope, nope, sir, I ain't getting into that. I ain't telling you. I ain't going out on the internet and letting everybody know where I get my non-hybrid seeds. I'm just here to tell you right now, if you email me at importexportsteve at d-410.com, I will happily sell you some of my non-hybrid seeds in exchange for that worthless cash. Because once again, son, a hybrid seed means that it's only good for one planting. You go down and buy yourself some corn seeds and you plant it, it's only good for one season. The scientists did that so they make you buy more and more seed every season instead of buying one sack of seed, growing it, taking half of that existing product and growing another quarter crop and having to use less seed next year. Mm-hmm. Yes, sir, but it's not hybrid. You're not following me, son. What don't you understand about science and proprietary? Yes, sir. Non-hybrid seed, son. That's what you need. non-hybrid seed. If you get yourself hybrid seed, it's only good for one season. How are you going to regrow without money? It is going to be worthless some, but I'm trying to help you and your family for the future. Kind of like them fellas on TV who want to trade their valuable gold and silver for your non-worthless valuable cash. Same thing. No, but I ain't got access to them, son. I can get non-hybrid seeds either. Can you get some gold? Exactly. And by the way, you're asking about my tinfoil hat. You live in 1963, son? I wear a Faraday cage hat. You are familiar with a Faraday cage? Okay, then I ain't got to explain to you the quality of my Faraday cage hat. You know, interestingly enough, I was listening to a podcast interview with this guy who's an expert on China, and he was talking about how, you know, China buys up properties here in the United States and kind of goes into places, cities, and states that need a revenue boost in their economy, and so they'll build companies and all that, right? And they're more than happy to pay the taxes, thus kind of paying off the local politicians. And one of them was, I believe out in Vegas, there was a Chinese electric car company they were building. Well, I just thought, no. Well, exactly. Faraday. When you have an electric car company called the Faraday, and for people who don't know, a Faraday cage is something, anything you put inside of it, like if you put a cell phone or anything, a Wi-Fi, there's no signal in there. It's a signal-free zone. So for example, if you want to make a company where you got more productivity out of your employees because you don't want them on their cell phone, tablets, or their Wi-Fi devices, and you have all your computers hardwired, you would just kind of turn your building into a Faraday cage, and as soon as they came into that property, none of the electronics would be able to get signals to get out. And so I just thought it was funny that they built an electric car company called Faraday something or other. They can't hear you? Okay, well that's good. Uh-huh.
I kind of wanted to segue into what's the dumbest thing you witnessed this week?
Can you guys hear Gordon now? The dumbest thing I witnessed this week, other than us trying to do this live like always, is, trying to think. Other than I saw a video of a lady wearing rubber gloves in her car and eating food, which defeats the purpose of that, because anything you touch is now being put on the food.
Yes, I would agree. So, what brings this up is I went over to Sam's Club to get some fuel on the way to work. So it's about 6 a.m. They had just opened up. I drive through and I look at the car wash and the gates are down, the doors are down. I'm like, oh, that's cool. So I pull up and get my gas. I get out, open the thing. You can cue the whistling now, like I'm doing something.
Cool, they can hear you now. We done fixed it live.
I am getting fuel, and I've got my back turned towards my car, kind of looking at the other fuel aisles, just taking in the scenery, which wasn't much that morning. But then I hear the car wash behind me, please enter your code. I'm like, wait a second, this thing's closed. Maybe they opened it. Turned around. Yeah. There's an older, probably about 10-year-old.
Why you gotta be a ageist? Why do you gotta be an ageist?
I'm going to be an ageist, and I'm going to get even more ageisty. So there's a 10-year-old-ish Mercedes there, black.
Now you're bringing race into it. It's bad enough first you brought the age, and now you're bringing the race into it.
I gotta amp up the ageistness. There's an older lady there. And she puts her and you hear her say, please pull forward. And she pulls forward to the closed car wash door.
So what you're saying is you observed that the doors were down.
I observed that the doors
were down. And your first assumption, like any normal person with half a brain, is, well, clearly they're closed.
Exactly.
Yet some other lady pulls up, thinking this is maybe maybe like she's playing Grand Theft Auto and she's running from the cops, and so she hopes the door opens so she can pull in and get a new paint job on her car. So she's actually paying for the car wash, even though technically it's closed.
Yes.
And how long did she sit there after paying for her code?
Well, she sat there. She kept inching closer and closer to the door.
Maybe it'll open like the gate at my private neighborhood.
And I mutter out loud. I don't know if she heard it. Wow, you're a bright one. Because I'm a dick that way. And as I'm pulling away, I look. Look at that. Older lady, 10-year-old car, and Florida tags.
Well, there you go. Florida tags will get you every time.
So I'm sure these are things you see there. Which brings me to my question. Do car washes in Florida have a door that magically opens?
No.
Okay.
Ironically, most automatic car washes, particularly the ones at gas stations, always seem to be broke. I don't know why the manufacturers of these, and I'm not even talking about old ones. There's a 7-Eleven that opened up in my neighborhood. It's probably 2 years old, and I've been to that car wash twice where it's been down and out of order.
Well, they do take a lot of abuse. So I've built a few of those. And
abuse? You want to talk about abuse? You know what the modern day equivalent of the public phone is when it comes to abuse?
The modern day equivalent of a public phone when it comes to abuse.
Meaning, like back in the day, you'd go to use a public phone and they're just disgusting. They got the shit beat out of them. People's banging the receiver on the phone. You can see the dents and there's gum, and they were just abused by everybody.
Bathroom stalls?
Bathroom stalls, kind of.
I mean, that's always been there, though.
The air pump, the nozzle on the fucking air pump. You'll be low on air, and you have to go like 7 gas stations around town because all the air nozzles have either been stolen, turned into a crack pipe, or just completely demolished.
So how I've defeated that is I just go to Discount Tire.
Come again?
I just go to Discount Tire and get free air fill. I just don't even mess with that. Now, you guys are a little more spread out than we are.
Well,
so.
I got a 100 PSI little pancake. What is that what they call them? The pancake compressors.
Okay.
And like I had a nail in my tire. I thought it was a low bad valve stem, and every time over the winter it got down to 30 or 40, my air pressure on my tire would drop. And I got a pancake compressor, but you got to turn that damn thing off like 10 minutes before it even fills up to the 100 PSI so you can do your tires. It's like, I guess I'll just drive over and pay the 75 cents. Because do I want to start a loud-ass compressor up at my house at 6:30 in the morning and wake all my neighbors?
Well, what's nice about Discount Tires is it's free.
Hence the name, Discount Tires.
Exactly. Hey, and it's not a sponsorship, but if you guys are willing to, it's bought tires from you guys for the last 10 years, so... You're the sole source of my tire needs.
Can I play you a little PSA that we want to bring to you here, part of the Digital 410 network?
Do I have a choice?
No. And
go ahead.
Actually, you go ahead and I'll play this one while I look for the other one because for some reason the other one's not saved on here.
Introducing credit card, the most widely used prepaid Visa credit card when it comes to scanning rubes on the internet.
Thanks to the Greenmark card, I was able to settle my tax code violations with IRS in one easy transaction. No lawyer, no accountant, what a great deal. And Greenmark card makes it so easy. Thanks, Greenmark card.
Greenmark invests its own money to help you save in the future by distributing unlimited cashback bonus to make an online purchase. But keep in mind, if you double up your pay for a car on Facebook Marketplace, since the law for you to get the title, that shit's on you.
No protection.
That's right. More words introduced by desperate Middle Eastern original American citizens. My information explaining to run a revolutionary So why not join hundreds of thousands of unsatisfied rip-off Greenmark users who think they're internet savvy but still find themselves spending hundreds of dollars on their Greenmark card at 3 a.m. at a local Walmart?
You've all got that email.
Who is God to know that Greenmark was there? Thanks, Greenmark. The
I wanted to play the other one, but I couldn't find it. But I don't want to play it right now because it's so damn. We just did a 1.5 bit. But thank you to the fine people at the Green Mark Card for sponsoring the show, and thank you to At Computers for continuing to sponsor this show and every show on the Digital 410 network. Right now with everybody being out of work and all that stuff, it's really not the time for me to hit you over the head with advertising. But let me just say thank you to At Computers. And if you guys do have any computer questions or need, regardless if you live in Southwest Florida or anywhere in the world, give them a call at 239-283-1120 or hit them up on Facebook or go to act-capecoral.com. So, Gordon.
Yes, sir.
What is your opinion or assumption on how many people are still kind of taking this serious around Vegas opposed to the people are just kind of over it?
That's an interesting question. It's weird. I guess if I stop by a gas station, which I'm really trying not to in the morning when I work, and it's myself and all the other essential employees out there, it seems like hardly anybody's wearing any face masks. But my wife says when she goes out to the stores on the weekend, it's pretty loaded up. So it seems like it depends on the crowd more than anything. What's going to be out there at any given time you're there. I do know that deliveries are through the roof for food, curbside pickup, which I would like to talk about because I've done curbside pickup from 4 or 5 restaurants now. Yeah, I'm apparently still eat too much pre-prepared food for me.
Really? That's the one thing we've dramatically cut down on is we've cut down on the shopping, all that stuff.
I'm done at like 2 a week. But one thing we noticed is the restaurants that we swore by, their food is cold before it even hits the curb.
Yeah.
It seems like they've cut staff so much, but now it's ramping up on the call-in orders. Talking to some people I know, now they just don't have enough staff in there. So at what point do they say, okay, it's time to start bringing some guys back in so our quality doesn't slip? Now, that being said, and I'm going to promote a local business near us that I'm glad I went back to today. They were right on target, and it's going to sound funny. Anybody's watched Roseanne, it's called the Munch Box. Great name. Fantastic restaurant ran by a family out of Toronto, Canada. And they got 2 locations, and they've always done a brisk business, but it's a very small place of food. So I called in today. She didn't even call in. I went and I did their online deal. I could schedule my pickup. I hit there. I said, hey, when you get here, call this number right on time. She goes, coming right out, sir. And the food was spot on. It was hot. It was fresh. It wasn't like they've substituted some ingredients because maybe they can't get everything. So I was very happy with that. How about you guys?
Well, we really haven't done a lot of curbside as far as pickup from the sit-down restaurants. I've been going occasionally. Actually, we've been ordering a lot of pizzas. Well, not a lot. We had pizza tonight and like 3 nights ago. But we've been doing a lot of cooking at home. Actually, you know what the weird thing is? Luckily, I still have the ability to do work right now, and obviously Carrie. Oh, by the way, Lee County, Florida, if you haven't heard, they just announced that Lee County school is out, done, no more. It's going to be social distance learning for the rest of the year. So they will not be going back to the physical schools. You guys are going to be continued to have to figure out what you're going to do with your kids like you have been for the last month.
What's the seniors going to do about graduation? What if they haven't quite hit their credits yet? I mean, here, graduation is pretty much postponed or canceled, and they're having each school do their own thing. I know we had one of the schools, they had all the seniors get together in their cars and basically do a big honking parade, which I'm sure ticked off a lot of people.
Yeah, it's a little weird.
There's all these cars going by, but I don't know. I've got a nephew graduating. I don't know what's going to be going on.
Well, I mean, I can imagine for the required classes, the English, the math, and all that stuff, they're going to do it on their tablets. But I don't know how you're going to get your credit in your ceramics class, your wood shop class, if they still have them. I don't know how they would get the credits for the elective classes, but for like the required courses, the math, the English, the history, the science, the biology, the marine biology, and all that stuff, just do it at home via the laptop. But I don't know how you'd get credits in your electives.
Yeah, and that's that.
Morgan Long
God, I'm
checking in. Real quick, we kind of went off track. You asked me about ordering curbside pickup, and when you're talking about how the food kind of seems to be cold, I had a logistical thought, and that's because these restaurants were designed to have minimum waiting time under their heat lamps.
Yeah, and
now that everybody's outside ordering from the parking lot and they're waiting for people to come to pick them up, they probably don't have enough heat lamp space to keep all the food warm.
Be quite honest, a lot of them don't even have heat lamps because usually once it hits the expediting and it's ready to go, they get it straight to your table.
Yeah, because heat lamps is kind of considered, that's the bad thing to do. If you have a quality restaurant, two things you don't rely on. One is microwaves and the other one's heat lamps.
Yeah, so it's like the food's almost dead before it gets to you. And I went to just a couple of places for carryout like that. I shouldn't say several, but it's interesting. I will actually give props to Firehouse Subs. They've been on point with their carryout. So, it's just the another guy there. I've gone there a couple of times, and they've done well. But as for people, what's interesting is just the mix of people I work with. We've kind of had some discussions on this while maintaining our 6 foot of different distance. And for some people who are like, everybody's got to stay home. That's their thoughts, I wouldn't want my grandmother to die. And then there's people, which I lean more towards, this has been good for this long. However, we need to start finding a way to either live with this and getting the economy back online, because that could be far more devastating than COVID if we're not careful. I am glad that here's some kind of outline for getting things up and running. Obviously, it's pushed to the governors, but at least there's something there now, and it's not just a big unknown. The phase plans that the administration put out seems reasonable. I'm sure there'll be people say, "Hey, he put it out. It's not reasonable because it's him." As we know, I don't care for the guy, but I give him a chance. So if it makes sense, it makes sense. But just hopefully it's almost like a soft opening for the apocalypse.
Well, the crazy thing is, and sociologically, this is kind of really a good study if you're like a sociology major or a government major or someone who has an interest in, not even really politics, but how our system is ran. We often talk about federalism on this show and about how each state and each city has the power and regulation to make their own laws and make their own policies to control their citizens. And kind of like what we're seeing in Michigan and Ohio, people are making fun of Florida because we're opening beaches or some of the beaches, and now, WWE has been declared an essential service and all that, which Gordon and I had an interesting discussion about. But what's interesting is you can kind of see how restrictive or how kind of power hungry certain governors are in certain states. Like when you hear the governor of Michigan saying, "Hey,
oh my God,
you guys can't buy anything but toilet paper and food. Don't buy clothes.
Don't put up with that.
Don't buy seeds. Don't buy video games." Here's the thing. Michigan, I'm sure I don't have to tell you or your politics, you are the home of one of the biggest cities who used to provide so much for this nation, who is in an environmental crisis, and that is Detroit. Mm-hmm. You got a large population of people who've been out of work or underworked for years.
And that's just it.
Hold on, let me finish. So you got this single mother, let's say hypothetically, you got a single mother, 2 kids, 3 kids, what have you. She just got $1,200 for herself, $500 per kid. She's been struggling. She hasn't, their kids haven't had new shoes since, the year before, or the youngest kid has hand-me-downs. This mother just got an influx of cash. She's not looking to go out and buy TVs or Xbox. She just wants to go to Walmart because all the other stores are closed and buy her kids some new shoes because it's been a year and a half since she's been able to do so, or maybe she couldn't afford to get them since the last tax return. She just got an influx of cash. Now she can buy her youngest kid some new clothes that weren't hand-me-down from her siblings, some new shoes for all of them. Once again, we're not talking about going out and buying Adidas because none of the stores are open. But to be in Michigan and say, "Hey, you guys have to stay home, and the only thing you can buy is food, toilet paper, and like toiletries, nothing else." No wonder people are protesting. It's insane.
It's America. What was Rage Against the Machine song? "Fuck you, I won't do what you tell me." That's going to happen. There's going to be a certain segment of the country There'll be people that are lockstep, with them, but we're starting to see the pushback around here too. Governor Sisolak.
Sisolak, like Mo Sisolak from The
Sisolak.
Simpsons.
His name is Governor Steve. I wonder if he's related to Import-Export Steve. It could be his descent. Yeah. Anyway, he basically said, hey, he made it sound like, well, we don't, the money isn't important, like it was more for the corporations to get up and running. Well, it's easy to say when maybe you've got plenty in the bank account, you aren't worrying about before this even happened, living check to check, worrying about your utilities getting cut off, making everything else. But, these people who live check or even day to day, that's a real problem. Even middle class people, that's a real problem.
Oh, absolutely.
It's easy to sit there up there on your tower, your ivory tower, and say, hey, this isn't about money. We need to first. Well, how many lives are you going to lose to fucking suicide if things go off the rails real bad and people can't make it? And yeah, we've got, you don't have to pay, get with your mortgage company, rent can be pushed later. But the problem is that still got to get paid because the landlord probably owes a note on the house or whatever property, even the TI space for stores and everything else down the can down the road, and we pile it up. So hopefully most people who are getting the stimulus checks are using catching themselves up, be paid down some crap. Unfortunately, and I know all over the road, it's kind of a stream of consciousness. Unfortunately, a lot of people are going to probably just waste the money. I wonder how many people went and ordered some delivery beer off of that check.
Well, it was kind of like you and I were talking about before this thing came. There's going to be three types of people when it comes to this money. You're going to have the people who probably haven't gotten it because they make so much money, who wouldn't notice it really too much if it hit their bank account. Then you got the second group who get it and are like, sweet, now I can pay my car payment and 3 of my minimum payments on my credit card this month. And, it helps.
Get ahead.
Yeah, or I can actually pay, 10% over my minimum payment and, get caught up, get a little ahead. But they're not out spending spree. And then you have the people like you're saying who've been underworked or out of work for so long who either use this money to try to get caught up to try to better their situations, or they're just like, fuck it, it's Christmas time. What do we want to buy? Oh, shit, nothing's open.
Exactly. Let's get some. And then you got the alcoholics, right?
Well, that's what I did with my George Bush check. Remember when George Bush kicked out $500 in 2008 to everybody? I bought a TV with it.
Forgot about that.
Yep, I bought a.
Hey, you stimulated the economy.
The TV that's in my garage on top of my refrigerator that you can see in my YouTube videos was my primary 32-inch LCD TV that used to sit in my living room that I bought with my George Bush check back in 2008.
But it looks like it's circa 1995.
No, it's
okay, early 2000s.
It's got the wide frame around it because they put the speakers on the bottom. But yeah, I mean it's clearly dated. But it works. It does what we wanted it to do. And for those of you listen on live stream, I know that the sound's a little crappy, but one, we are streaming, and not only are we streaming through Skype, half of the newscast, if you turn on Fox News, CNN, or MSNBC, half their remote journalists are using Skype, and so I'm sure Skype servers are working extra hard. But as always, download the show. Interested in content. Apple Podcasts or iTunes is an easy way to get it for you Apple users. Obviously, Google Music, Stitcher, Spotify, or simply go to d-410.com. And while we're on it, let me play what I wanted to play earlier, and hopefully it comes through. During these trying times, due to the bastard known as the COVID-19 virus, many of the things on our life schedules have been canceled, whether it's an OCR race, sporting events, movies, concerts, birthday parties, weddings, life get-togethers. We have all suffered. We've all been stuck in our homes for a long time. But in an effort to put a smile on your face, we here at Digital 410 bring to you a list of events you should be happy got canceled.
The Dallas Quilters Guild Quilt Fest 2020, March 13th through the 15th in Dallas, Texas. The 5th Sin Jigsaw Puzzle Conference of 2020 scheduled for April 12th through the 15th in the United Kingdom. And the 2020 West Coast Beard and Mustache Competition scheduled for April 16th in San Francisco, California.
To every tragic event, one must find a silver lining. And so we want to thank you, COVID-19, for sparing the world of these events.
Yeah, I'm sorry that you don't get to go to the beard and mustache competition in San Francisco.
I've been working on it though, man.
Hey, beer rights
I
for
would be
free.
last place, I'm sure.
Yeah, you grow a pretty crappy beard, my friend.
Hey, it's not that crappy. It's cool. Yeah, actually.
Yeah, it's gotten better. You know, I did trim mine finally because it was getting funky and whack.
Yeah, I'm actually going to be doing that tonight. So.
You know, we had people complaining about the audio on the stream, and I keep muting my mic and turning it up, and it sounds pretty decent to me. I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, I'm sure, again, it's everybody. And we could even talk about it. I think we brought up last week. Everybody and their mom seems to be streaming right now. I mean, that is that, you know, Skype's probably overloaded. We're thinking of using a different carrier, but there's some limitations right now to being able to do that. And even some of the...
Well, I'll be honest with
podcasts-
everybody. Everybody will use Zoom. The reason we don't use Zoom is, one, the show would be over right now. We're 44 minutes into this podcast. We're not even halfway done. With the Zoom free, you get 3 people join you. So if we want to have 2 guests on in one day, that's not a possibility. It limits you to 40 minutes, and that's it. And if we want to upgrade to the next plan, it's $14.95 a month, which doesn't sound like a lot of money, but that's like $200 and something a year. And that money's got to come from somebody. And maybe once we start getting advertisers and all that, there is another service I'm looking into, and that's the ones that our friends over at the Unsupervised Podcast use, and it's called StreamYard or something like that. The problem with that is it doesn't allow me to broadcast to Restream.io. And so we would have to choose a provider. Either it would be streaming to Facebook only, Periscope only, or YouTube only. And I don't know if that's something that we want to do.
Well, we could probably put that out as a poll.
Yeah.
You know, keep it as is or this option.
I think what we're doing is working. I think the video's coming through fine. I think what we got to do now is adjust the audio. And I know so many people get burnt out on our discussion on our problems here, but maybe some people like to hear
Fix it already.
maybe they like to hear the behind the scenes stuff. The last 3 or 4 or 5, actually all the podcast videos you've seen previously, everything was running off this computer. And that's why the video would start to get flaky. So what we're doing this week is the cameras, Skype, OBS is all running off of what used to be Dave's computer. And all the sound is coming through the mixing board to there. And so when you guys are saying it's a little loud and all that, I'm adjusting it. I'm tweaking it as we go. Unfortunately, there's no real way to do a test live stream that's not live because we can't hear the audio. I've tried it where I just go to OBS, but I can't hear the audio to adjust it. So hopefully we can tweak and get this thing working. But the videos haven't dropped out. Well, you just resized again because I've been jinxed. So the damn picture keeps resizing. But other than that, everything's fucking sweet.
So we basically take into the divide and conquer approach this time around.
Well,
between the resources we have.
Well, that and you and I have both, we've both worked construction and other farms. And there's something that a lot of guys hate that happens, which is called online engineering. And that is when your job is to get something done and an engineer hands you a plan and they want you to figure it out in real time. And when I used to build ambulances for Horton, that happened all the time. While you're building the truck, the customer would call and ask the engineer if it's a possibility to do X to the truck, which may have been done on a different model of truck. Maybe it's been done on a Ford F-150, but not on the Chevy series. And so they would bring you the equipment and bring you the plans and say,
"Here you go, boys, make it work.
Make it work.
Make it work."
And I got to tell you, when you're 20 years old and someone brings you a brand new F-350 chassis and hands you a body saw and a light and say, cut a hole in that fender, put this in there.
I'm glad I worked at that chop shop.
And make sure it doesn't rust. Or here's a 40-pound light bar, drill a hole in the roof, run the wiring harness, run these bolts through. And by the way, there better not be any water that leaks through there. And you're doing it to like a brand new truck. It's kind of crazy.
Before you get used to that, you got the pucker factor pretty good. Is that what you're saying?
I've seen people drop light bars off of, off the top of ladders, like $1,000 light bar. Whoops. I remember when they made the transition, because this is how long ago. God damn, it's been almost...
Woo! Oops, can't see it from my house.
2001, yeah. It's been 19 years. God, I'm getting old. 19 years ago, so the technology's a
Oh,
little
yeah,
bit
you're getting
different.
old.
I was there when they were making the transition from the halogen lights to the LED flashing lights. And obviously, when you don't have the red or amber cover on it, there's actually a little dial in the corner where you can adjust the flash patterns. You'd have to wear welding goggles when you're looking at these LED lights and you're adjusting the flashing pattern because they're so goddamn bright.
Now it's probably an app on a phone.
Yeah, they're probably pre-programmed. Yeah, I mean, back then I was actually cutting, the ribbon cables on your old hard drives?
Yes.
I was actually cutting and crimping and creating ribbon cables from a spool because they actually had a computer motherboard in the cabinet that would control all the light patterns and all the internal systems.
So you
But
basically make it the custom length.
yeah,
for
and
it
so
to
they
do.
wouldn't buy like a box of ribbon cables. We made all the wiring harnesses there by hand, all the ribbon cables and all that stuff.
Well, that's cool.
And you would take for granted, you're at work and you got these nut inserts. For people who don't know what that is, if you drill a hole in a piece of metal, you put this nut insert in there. If it's a thin metal that you can't tap, like a real thin aluminum or diamond plate, something that you can't get enough teeth on if you were to run a tap. What's a tap?
Right.
A tap's the thing you put in that creates the threads to screw something in. Well, what they have is this tool. It's called a nut insert. Basically, drill a hole. You put this little cup in there, and then it squeezes it on both sides, and then pops out. And so now you have basically a fat nut built into the metal, so you can screw the lights on and all that. And so you get used to having all these tools, and then when you leave, you're no longer working there, you're back in a civilian role, and you're doing projects. Like, if I only had this, and then you look up the price on it, like, wow,
Dear God.
maybe I should have been a little easier on my tools back then. Holy hell. I mean, I used to go through unibits and hole saws like weekly.
You're probably running them unibits a little too fast, aren't you?
Well, you're running diamond plate is the hardest thing in the world to cut. If it's true, real, not aluminum like with diamonds on it, but the actual aluminum steel mixed diamond plate, that stuff burns up drill bits and unibits like it's nobody's business, even if you're using white grease.
Okay, we're going to go down a little different road here. What's the coolest cutting tool or penetration making tool that you've used? That you're just like, wow, this is cool.
Oh, I'd have to think.
Well, I'll tell you mine. Plasma cutter.
Okay.
Plasma cutters are fantastic, and it's just like cut through butter. It's just, I mean, you're sloppy as crap the first time you try to make a round hole. It looks more like some 5-year-old tried to draw a square or a diamond. But I would use it on pan deck when out in the field, and that was awesome. I think these days you probably have to be extra certified, but back then it was really cool. I think that was probably one of the coolest tools I learned to use. And electrical, we learned to use a lot of really cool stuff, but that one, I just liked it. And yourself?
For me, it's not a tool that I've actually had the privilege of using, but it's a tool that I've seen used multiple times because I do computer work for this place who makes stuff out of foam, whether it's a column for the front of your house.
Like EFIS? I think you call it EFIS.
Well,
our town is built on EFIS.
Like if you see these big fancy houses that have the stucco and they got like these columns and like these window seal ledges and these arches and all that crap that look like it's made of.
Look at any casino on the strip.
Yeah, basically all that exterior work that looks like it's like Roman stone, it's all styrofoam with a hardener on it. And the cool thing is this stuff comes in. I think I have a picture on my Instagram page somewhere. It comes in 8 foot tall by like 5 foot blocks of just solid foam, and they get into like their equivalent of what's the program the engineers use to cut metal? AutoCAD. It's like their equivalent of AutoCAD. And so they program it in there, and it literally cuts it with what looks like an electric guitar string, like maybe an E string or an A string, and they heat it up, and it just goes through and cuts this foam. But it's not so hot that it actually changes the color of the foam, so it still comes out white and clean. They'll cut. If I wanted to get digital 410 behind me on a wall and a nice logo with backlight, they would cut that out. And it's so cool to watch this thing. It's just it goes real slow, and it's just a hot guitar string. And it just cuts anything you want. And then they actually have one that will round things off too. It's incredible what they make with these damn machines.
Oh yeah, because we usually end up seeing the result of that getting put onto these projects out here. It is really neat. I I was trying to think of the word of the machine you're looking for, but I can't quite place it right now because evidently words are not that important.
Why does it have to be a tongue twister?
Did you hear that?
I heard that loud and clear.
It didn't come through very good on my end, but I don't know. Who knows?
Why does it have to be a tongue twister?
I had her recording that drop about the pandemic, and she was trying to do the Quilt Guild Quilt Fest 2020, and she got all frustrated too.
Why does it have to be a tongue twister?
Yeah, a little alliteration on that too, right?
Yeah. Before we get into the news, we've been going a little long. Can I want to guess the 20 worst cars of all time?
I'm going to throw in 5 of the 20.
Okay. Let me write them down, and then I'll go through the list because it's one of those things where you got to scroll and they got the paragraphs all nonsense. So give me your top 5. 5 being the top of the list, and your number 1 being the worst car of all time.
Okay. Ford Festiva.
Festiva number 5.
Fiesta. Yep.
Now keep in mind, this is all the time, so you could have a Fiat on there. You could have a Volvo or a Yugo.
I'm going to say after that we're going to have a Fiat 500, the original, I think.
500 OG. Okay.
We're going. I was actually just going to give you a random one just to see if they were on the list.
Sure.
Yugo. Yep.
Now,
Yugo.
Which war was it that we destroyed the Yugo plant? Was it Gulf War or Operation?
I think it's. Wasn't it when
Was it pre 9/11
with some things going on and he lashed out?
I can't remember. I just know that we bombed the Yugo plant, and that's why they don't exist anymore.
Yeah. Let's see what else do I have. How about the AMC Javelin?
AMC Javelin. Okay.
I think I've got one more to go. And what we'll go with is the Dodge Omni.
Dodge Omni. You know that for a fact because you owned one and abandoned it in the back of Ted's neighborhood. But that's cop shows up. I open the door. I'm like 17, 18. Hello?
Oh, what have I done now?
Is Mr. Abernathy here? Gordon? No, he's not. Yeah, it looks like he abandoned his car in the back of the neighborhood. I said, and that's my problem because I just shut the door in his face.
Yeah, I didn't quite have my crap together back then.
Now, did you bother to remove the plate when he abandoned said car, or did you just leave it?
I think I took the plate off.
But they ran the VIN number clearly.
They're going to run the VIN number, yeah. I mean,
now, that's when you made your exodus to Montana, right?
The first time around, yes.
The first time, yeah, because you hopped in the Volkswagen bus and you had a car. You had no way to move it, sell it. You should have scrapped it, but instead you just you went full fucking redneck. You went full redneck and left it in the back of the residential neighborhood. But anyhow, okay, so your choices: number 5, Festiva, that's a Ford; the Fiat 500 OG; the Yugo, which we bombed the plant; the AMC Javelin; and the Dodge Omni.
Yes.
Number 20, worst car of all time, according to TheStreets.com, the 1978 AMC Pacer. Referred to by many as the fishbowl on wheels, the AMC Pacer became the car that kids would ask their parents to park a block away from school and not be seen in. Adding to the car's strange shape, the passenger side door was 4 inches longer than the driver's side door. I never knew that.
But made popular again in the 90s by Wayne's World, the movie.
What they don't cover in here is the reverse screw in the gas tank, right? Wasn't that the Pacer?
I did not know anything about it.
Wasn't the Pacer the one that would blow up if you rear-ended it?
No, that was the Ford Pinto.
Oh, okay, my bad. Maybe they'll cover that.
Mom had one of those.
Ford
green one.
Yeah, Ford Pinto for you young kids have what they call a reverse screw in the gas tank. I guess I don't know what the hell that meant or what it did, but if you rear-ended them hard enough and that screw caused a spark, it would cause the gas tank to blow up. Number 19, worst car of all time, according to TheStreets.com, the 1957 Tremont P50.
I have no clue what that is.
That's because it's the East Germany's answer to the Volkswagen Beetle. Trambits smoked like an Iraqi oil fire when they ran at all. They often lacked even the most basic of amenities like brake lights and turn signals, according to Time magazine.
I said Iraqi oil fire and not like I'm not even going to go down that road. World War II joke, but yeah.
It kind of looks like the front end kind of looks like a Carmen Ghia, but the back end, the middle and the back look like a Fiat. Number 18, worst car of all time, the 27 Aston Martin Cygnet, Cygnet, Cygnet.
That would be Cygnet, and Aston Martins are good cars. So
the Aston Martin 2011 Cygnet was basically a Toyota IQ with all the Toyota badges stripped off, and the Aston Martin badges put on it at a MSRP of around $50,000.
I thought Aston Martin hand built their own cars.
The price tag, the main reason that Cygnet finds itself on the list is because the primary reason it was made was not to be a quality car. Aston Martin made the fuel efficiency city car in order to comply with the European Union's imposed fleet average emission regulation that took off in 2012. So they really had no intention to sell these cars. They basically made them to offset their fleet's output of carbon for carbon emissions.
So that's basically the European version of the CAFE standards we adopted shortly after that.
Yep.
Gotcha. And that's why we now see CVT transmissions everywhere.
So now we're number 17, and we have not found any of Gordon's top 5 worst cars of all time. Number 17, worst car of all time, according to TheStreets.com, is the 1971 Chevy Vega.
I almost said Vega, but hey, I'm in top 5, and we're at 17.
The
Vega was an interesting car.
Yep, the Vega's aluminum engine guzzled motor oil like it was its job. John DeLorean, who was the head of Chevrolet at the time, famously wrote in his book that he knew it was a bad sign when the Vega literally fell apart 8 miles in its first test run. And for those of you who heard the name John DeLorean, yes, that is the same DeLorean who created the DeLorean car and had his manufacturer plant shut down when they found out that he was drug dealing cocaine, and there was pounds of cocaine found in some of the cars on his lot.
Point of interest, rumor has it DeLoreans will be coming back, and it's going to be pretty much the same car.
What's up, Martin Marzika, tuning in from Brooklyn, New York, or the Bronx? I'm sorry, my bad. I hope things are well and all things are safe with you. And once again, where you know that the audio is in and out, but hey, the video quality is great, and we're working on it as always. Hey, we've been working on it for 3 years.
We fix one thing and creates a problem somewhere else.
Well, here's the problem: is we had this thing working great when it was 2 people in the studio and 1 person tuning in. And so, but now that we're doing it remotely like the rest of the world, now we're relying heavily on Skype to get this out there. But anyhow, back to the list of the worst cars of all time, according to TheStreet.com. Number 15, the worst, which a guy, interestingly, at the Horton Emergency Plant that I worked at had one, which is the 1995 Suzuki X90.
Would that be similar to the Suzuki Esteem?
No, this is basically if you took the chassis, the suspension, and I believe the 4-wheel drive, I haven't verified that yet, and put it on a Geo Metro with
so basically taking a Suzuki Samurai and mashing it into a Metro?
Yeah, because it's 2-seater like a Metro, but it has more of a stance like a Samurai.
Ugly car, right?
Yep. After looking at this car, it may not be a surprise to anyone that the Suzuki no longer produces the car in the United States. Not only does the car look nearly exactly the same going forward as it does going backwards, it's almost as if the manufacturer simply forgot the middle part of the car. Number 14 of the worst cars of all time, the 1982 Cadillac Cimarron. That's Cimarron for those of you playing at home. Cimarron? Never heard of it.
Yeah, Cimarron, which we actually have a Cimarron street out here. So
an attempt to compete with the BMW and the Mercedes-Benz in the successful premium small car market of the 1980s. GM took a Chevy Cavalier, another sorry car, souped it up with tacky fabric and accessories, threw a Cadillac badge on it, and called it the Cimarron.
Because you know what makes a car rich? Gaudy shit. Because rich people like gaudy shit.
This thing, you know what it's missing? The wood paneling on the side, or the fake.
Does it have the half?
No, I was going to say the fake fabric top. Yeah. No, it's an ugly car. I'll post a link to this page on our podcast page on Facebook after we're done. Quote, everything that's wrong, vinyl, lazy, and I don't even know what the fuck that word is, about GM in the 1980s was crystallized in the flagrant insult to the good name of the fine customers of Cadillac, said Time magazine.
So basically, they're saying everything that's possibly wrong with GM was put into one car, and it was their flagship Cadillac.
Carrie's saying it's only your microphone that sounds muffled. The problem is I don't have anybody sitting at the computer, so I'll have to get up and go over there, and I will hopefully have it fixed for the next podcast. But basically, I need to go on the other computer. Maybe I'll do it during the news and adjust his sound. But let's get through the rest of this list. Number 13 is going to offend our friend Mike Wolf at American Pickers greatly. It's going to stick him right in the heart.
What is it?
For the record, we have yet to cross off any of Gordon's cars on his personal top 5 list.
What number are we at again?
Number 13, worst cars of all time, according to TheStreet.com. The 1955 BMW Isetta. Anybody who's watched American Pickers is familiar with this car. Think of a backwards three-wheeler where the two fronts are up front, the one wheel's in the back, and you actually climb through the front of the car. The hood, if you will, opens up, and you climb in. The
modern version of that, ladies and gentlemen, it's a slingshot.
The 12 horsepower, single-cylinder, three-wheeled city car might possibly be the most embarrassing German car ever produced, according to TheStreet.com. The Isetta came without a reverse gear and only had one door, which was up front, as we talked about. This meant that if one were to squeeze into a tight parking spot nose first, the occupants would neither exit the vehicle nor back out of that spot, further extinguishing the already embarrassing experience of being seen in the car. But Isettas are fun. I wouldn't want to be my daily driver.
No, that's like a cruise with a bunch of other old cars type vehicle, where you're surrounded by safety of other non-safe vehicles.
Number 12 of the worst cars of all time, according to TheStreet.com, the 2003 Saturn Ion. If you're not familiar with the Saturn, that's because during the 2008 bailout we were talking about previously, when George Bush sent us all $500, they also closed down Saturn when Chevy took the bailout. The Ion was so poorly made and blatant that not only was it a major factor leading to the demise of Saturn, but also it still haunts owners to this day. In February 2014, General Motors announced a massive recall of 2.6 million vehicles to fix the faulty ignition switches. This recall included every Saturn Ion ever made.
Of course.
I heard, and it has to be true, I heard whenever a car manufacturer discontinues a model, that they're required to make replacement parts for at least 20 years.
I'm sure they have 20 years.
I guess you'd have to say they have to make parts if there's no third-party knockoffs already making parts.
Correct. I'm sure that, yeah. I would agree with that, but I'm not 20 years. I don't see that. But anyway.
Getting close to Gordon's list, but not on it. He didn't make it number 11th of the worst times of all cars of all time. The 1971 Ford Pinto.
Damn, I should have got that one.
Any car that tended to unconditionally erupt into flames during a low-speed rear-end collision deserves a spot on the list as amongst the worst cars of all time. To make matters worse, Ford declined in its infamous cost-benefit analysis of the situation that became known as the Ford Pinto memo, that paying off the cost of the settlements to the victims, $50 million, was more financially beneficial than recalling and reinforcing the car's rear ends, which would have cost Ford $121 million. Now, if any of that sounds familiar to you, that might be because there's a loose plot line in Fight Club about that was his job. Ed Norton's job was to do that cost analysis for large companies to see if it would cost more to fix the problem or to pay off the people who were affected by it.
I got to dust that movie off. I haven't seen it in a while.
Carrie and I had sat down and watched it not too long ago, and it holds up pretty good.
Yeah, I actually was watching Snatch. I was getting Katina into Snatch the other day, and it seems to hold up pretty good, too.
Yeah, Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels is good. All those movies, all those Guy Ritchie movies, all those late 90s, early 2000 movies, they all hold up pretty good.
Excellent. So we in the top 10?
The top 10 worst cars. I know it's taking a little long, but hey, that's what we're doing. We're trying to take your mind off of being locked up in COVID-19. I mean, we can sit here and talk about COVID-19 all day and about my face mask that I bought, but, you know, no one wants to hear about that crap because we're tired of hearing about it. Number 10 worst cars of all time, according to Streets.com. The 1972 Lincoln Continental. Got 6 girlies in my Lincoln Continental. Mark IV, mind you. So if you got the Mark V or Mark VI, you're good to go. He may have figured out the origin of the phrase hunk of junk without rummaging through the depths of the internet. The fifth generation version of the once proud American luxury vehicle, the Lincoln Continental Mark V, is ugly, slow, lumbering, graceless, and just plain boring. It looks like something Cruella de Vil from 101 Dalmatians would drive drive if she simply stopped caring. Quote, I think when they were designing the car, no one in any meeting used the word precision, according to BBC's Top Gear presenter and motoring journalist Jeremy Clarkson. Okay, number 9.
We don't need precision.
Number 9, worst car, the Reliant Robin. One of the most unique and interesting vehicles on the list, considering it only had 3 wheels. It's kind of like the reverse version of the Isetta with 2 passenger
Was this
doors.
a British car by chance?
I don't know. Let's
Something
find
Mr.
out.
Bean would drive.
It may be, but it wasn't that had 3 wheels. It was that those 3 wheels were positioned, 2 in the back, 1 up front, and it made the car incredibly unstable, especially around turns exceeding 25 miles per hour at the angle of 45 degrees. Despite the ridiculousness and impracticality, the car's uniqueness caused it to gain somewhat of a cult following. In fact, many people enjoy this car as long as you don't take it too seriously.
I think I'm looking at pictures. I think this is the vehicle that Mr. Bean had used in a few of his episodes, which would make sense.
You mean Uncle John? Inside family joke, but I always thought Uncle John looked like Mr. Bean.
That's funny.
Number 8 worst car, 1974 Mustang II.
I would agree because that was basically a dressed up Pinto.
Now let's see what thestreets.com said. The Ford Mustang Chevy Camaro rivalry is quite possibly the most heated rivalry in automotive world, but even the most diehard and abased Mustang fanatic would admit the 1974 Mustang II was garbage, and the car that shamed the Mustang and its otherwise tremendous line of American muscle cars.
Yep, I believe the Mustang 2 was basically a dressed up Pinto.
Yeah, it looks like one. But let's go to Italy for the number 7 worst, the 1978 FSO Polonaise, P-O-L-O-N-E-Z, Polonaise.
Okay.
The FSO Polonaise is considered by many to be one of the most undependable, unstylish car ever made. It kind of looks like a 4-door version of a Volkswagen Rabbit with a Ford Mustang Fastback from 1984 rear end on it.
I'm looking at it right now. Yeah.
Here's what Jeremy Clarkson had to say about the Polonaise. Built by communists out of the steel so thin that you could use it as a neck curtain, and it's as reliable as long as lasting as a precision. I'm sorry. It's as reliable and long lasting as a parishioner's erection.
So you would actually have to say it with a British accent to sound like Jeremy Clarkson, which is also known for Top Gear.
Yes. Number 6, worst car of all time, the 2003 Citroen Poluri. Other than the fact that it looks like something that would be dispensed out of a gumball machine, the car is painfully impractical. It kind of looks like a little bit bigger version of a smart car. Not only do you have to manually disassemble the roof, which is exhaustively time-consuming, it takes a Lego instruction manual in order to piece it back together. Even worse, once you have finally taken the roof apart, these pieces cannot fit into the car, making them entire experience feel like a cruel joke. So basically, once you take the roof off and leave it at home, you got to pray that it doesn't rain or you're done.
Better live in the desert.
Okay, we're in the top 5. Still, none of Gordon's are on here.
Maybe I'll get all 5. That would be
fantastic. Number 5 worst 2009 BMW X6. For the record, isn't that the second BMW that's on here? No, the other one was a Aston Martin. Quote, what the hell is this thing? Dubbed by Top Gear's Jeremy Clarkson.
Yeah, it's kind of like a CUV.
Yeah.
I always thought they were kind of cool looking. But
Jeremy Clarkson says this is the stupidest car in the world. The BMW X6 doesn't serve a purpose. It is a car designed to look and ride like a sedan, and at the same time, boat and travel boasting a tall driving position of grit as an off-roader. However, BMW's self-acclaimed SAV or sport activity vehicle can't do either properly. As a car, the BMW X6 is nowhere near as bad as some of the other vehicles on the list, but when you consider that it cost in 2003, the manufacturer suggests retail price of $55,900, and what you're expecting from BMW, it's worse. Top four.
About another 1,000.
Still haven't got any of Gordon's. The
Okay.
2002 Lexus SC4300. I'm happy to see that there's a lot of quote-unquote high-end cars on here. It makes me feel
Yes.
better about the fact that I can't afford any of them.
Didn't waste any money.
Coming in at number 4 is the 2002 Lexus SC430. Being a Lexus, which is by the way, which is even worse, it's a high-end Toyota. It is not built to the quality or the interior. I'm sorry. It is not the build quality or the interior that's the disappointment. However, it is what the brand brings to you to accept. With the original $61,055 MSRP price tag and higher maintenance cost, consumers rightly expect something extraordinary what the Lexus delivers. However, it is a car with an attempt at a sporty look, with the power plant delivering a measly 300 bph, not nearly enough for what the weight of the Lexus drags around. So basically, it's completely underpowered by the motor for the car chassis. Okay, we got
That's
2 left.
300 horsepower. That's still a lot of horses, but okay.
2 left. Second worst, the Pontiac Aztek.
I forgot about the Aztek. And being a Breaking Bad fan, I should remember the Aztek.
No, sorry, Breaking Bad fanatics. Protagonist Walter White does not make the Pontiac Aztek cool. An argument that can be made that Walter White cannot really make anything cool, but that separates the discussion. But perhaps it is fitting that the characters depicting the no little to no redeeming quality drives a car predicting little to no redeemable qualities. And by the way, he bought that car so he wouldn't show up on the radar of the FBI. Apart from its recently crappy celebrity, this car is shamefully ironic. The front of the Aztek almost looks like a GM built an SUV, but then decided to scalp the hood for a Pontiac Grand Prix, fix the top of the Aztek like a baseball cap, and say, voila. It does look like a jacked up Grand Prix.
Yes, it does. So what is number 1?
Not
What
a
is
single
number
one of your cars is on this list.
Well, good thing I'm not my opinions don't matter, so.
Now, interestingly, for those of you playing along at home, this website has number 2 and number 1 both claimed as number 2. So technically there is no number 1, but their second number 2, it actually says number 2 worst car, which would be their number 1, is the 1985 Yugo GV. Much like
I won. I was a little out of order, but it was on the list.
I got
Okay,
Ford
Yugo.
Fiesta. Oh, yep, number 3. So you're 2 off. You had the Yugo listed as number 3. Much like the FSO Polonez and the Tribent, the Yugo is another communist-produced car, this time from Yugoslavia. The Yugo was introduced in the United States in 1985 with a $3,990 price tag, but its dreadful build quality and reputation quickly made it a prime example of the cliche, you get what you pay for. And its
Yugo, straight to the garage.
In its review of Yugo, Consumer Reports called the car, quote, hard to recommend at any price, and concluded that, quote, you're better off buying a good used car than a brand new Yugo. If that's not enough, Yugo is the only non-U.S. manufactured car to make the Hagerty Insurance most questionable car list. And as we said earlier, the Yugo plant no longer exists because we bombed the hell out of it.
Stop sending us your crappy import.
Actually, you know what? I'm looking at this list, and they had 2 number 2s.
Mm-hmm.
If we go way down to the bottom, the worst car of all time. So technically, this is the top 21 list because they messed up. The worst car of all time is the 1989 Eagle Premier. I'm not even familiar with this car.
Vaguely. Eagle was a company that belonged to Chrysler.
Oh, I do remember Eagles now. They only had like 3 or 4 models, right?
Yeah, and a lot of them was jacked up, kind of like a Subaru.
Yep.
Yeah.
You may look at this car and think to yourself, that's not that bad. But what is that that makes this car particularly terrible? Is what is it not? When you get in this car, you feel nothing. There's nothing special or unique about the Eagle Premier. It's almost as if the designer took his 4-year-old kid's crayon drawing of a car and decided to model the Eagle Premier after it. It has no style. It is not fast. It is not at all luxurious, despite being branded as a luxury car. It doesn't have particularly good gas mileage. It is the most underwhelming car in the world. Even with the 9 other dreadful options on this list, there's more than 9, but okay, we've already talked about they messed up the list anyhow. Even with the 9 other dreadful options on this list, at least they have a story to tell, something unique about them. This car looks like a generic silhouette of a vehicle in which you would spot only on a 25-year-old poster that has been hanging in a tired DMV, generic and apathetic in its nature. Faded and defeated for many years of exposure to fluorescent lighting and the restless complaints of impatient souls. It is a symbol of the sheer indifference of nothingness. And it has the brand of the Eagle Premier. You ready to do your news, fella?
Let's do the news.
Joining us now from the Digital 410 West News Desk in Las Vegas, Nevada, Gordon Abernathy.
Hey, Gordon, what's going on? And yes, we will get you a new intro here soon.
As we know what's going on, I've got one for you. What is it something that seems like a great idea to do when everybody's on lockdown?
Get naked and run down the street.
That's exactly it. And coming at us from Cape Coral, Florida, a woman catches a man on camera running naked in Cape Coral.
He's an asshole, sir.
Yeah. So he's either just got done watching
Breaking Bad. Yeah, or Old School.
Breaking Bad.
We're going streaking! Is that Frank the Tank?
Drunk. I'm thinking probably at least a case of Budweiser in him. So this gentleman...
Nah, that sounds like White Claw all the day, because after all, there ain't no law when you're drinking the Claw.
Well, this guy, naked man, was jogging on Southeast 44th Street in Cape Coral. Completely naked.
Luckily, that's on the complete opposite side of town from where I live.
Yeah, but this lady said she caught the man on camera, and it was near her home.
Don't look, Ethel!
But it was too
Thursday
late.
night.
She got an eyeful.
You never know what you're going to watch. This is why I watch our home TV system. Daniel was driving home with Danielle. I am apologizing. You're a female, not a male. Danielle was driving home with her boyfriend at around 10 p.m. And as they pulled up near their driveway, she saw more than she wanted to see. Jogging along 44th Street in Cape Coral, getting ready for his marathon, apparently, was a man which was completely naked. Danielle took out her phone, because that's what we do, and instantly started recording. In the video, you can hear her ask the man why he was naked. The man mumbles words back to Danielle.
Mind your goddamn business, woman.
You don't want to be. They're coming to get me. The words back to Danielle before her and her boyfriend drove off. Danielle said, obviously he was running, so he took off running again. The Cape Coral police said the incident was never reported, though. However, officers said if they catch this guy, he could face a misdemeanor charge for exposing his junk. So look out for naked man in Cape Coral, Florida.
I think he would be lucky if he got a misdemeanor charge of exposing his junk. If this young lady had the desire to, she could probably quite easily get this guy registered as a sex offender. Because he was flopping his jewels all around town amongst the innocent and the public.
Exactly. Anyway, so in these troublesome times we've got our opportunist, right?
Mm-hmm.
This one's coming out from Las Vegas, Nevada, but a unlicensed lab at the Sahara West Urgent Care and Wellness Center has been ordered to close. So out here, the Nevada Division of Public and Behavioral Health has issued a cease and desist order to an unlicensed laboratory in Las Vegas. They investigated and substantiated a complaint of the operation, which was unlicensed at Sahara West Urgent Care and Wellness, and I won't give the address, don't need to. The laboratory was found to be collecting patient specimens and performing laboratory tests during an unannounced on-site complaint investigation. The lab was using a serological test for the COVID-19. Got to make our money somehow. Serological tests have not been used to diagnose for diagnostics purposes, and any serological test at the Sahara West Urgent Care and Wellness would not have definitive results for the purpose of diagnosing COVID-19. The patients are urged to contact their healthcare provider to determine if the further testing is required. To basically vet the places before you go. If something's going on, you need testing. Get a reference through your doctor. They are just not valid. They're obviously taking advantage of the situation. And according to the NRS, or Nevada Revised Statute 652.080, prohibits.
Hold on, I got something for that.
Why does it have to be a tongue twister?
I don't know. Anyway, prohibits the operation of medical laboratory without first obtaining a licenses through the DPBH.
Why does it have to be a tongue twister?
But anyway, there we go. We got people out there, doing phony baloney tests.
You don't say.
Nice profits.
You don't mean there's people out there trying to make a buck off of this?
Oh my God,
I did see a report. There was a company who was making this M90 mask. They were claiming to be an official licensed affiliate of 3M, and they were gouging the prices. The unit price, I can't remember. I didn't see what the unit price was, but it was enough that the government got involved and 3M got involved and said, hey, these are not affiliated with in any way, shape, and or form. We have not licensed them. They have nothing to do with us, but they were basically making knockoff versions of the M90 mask and then selling the price points on them insane.
Hey, Import-Export Steve.
Yes, what's going on?
You got to check out these masks you sell for a nice hefty price. Now, don't tell anybody, but what we've done is we've taken about 5 coffee filters and we've run it into a mold the shape of an M95 mask. So the cost is like 2 cents per unit, but you could sell it from $9 to $20 a piece. Just imagine the profit you can bring in, Import-Export Steve.
Do they got Made in America stamped on them?
It says America right on it.
America.
I could put America, I could put America, I could put whatever state you come from. If it's from, you want it to say from Southwest Florida or from Import-Export Steve?
What kind of shipping costs am I looking at here?
You're looking at about $5 a thousand.
I'll have to get back to you on that one. Because I'll be honest with you, I've been kind of making my own mask. I haven't ready to release them. But every year, whenever the big football teams go to the big game or the basketball teams play for all March for the big championship, and all the teams print up T-shirts saying that they won. And then when they lose, they ship the T-shirts over to Africa and other third world countries because obviously we can't have them in our area with the invalid team being the championship of said competition. Well, I got a line on some of those from last year's Super Bowl of the losing team, and I'm making some masks out of them. So it'll be ironic and fun.
But you won't have a filter in it. These coffee filters, I tell you, Import-Export Steve, they're the way to go. Wave of the future.
I'll have to look into that.
Absolutely. All right, so we've been talking about how Americans just ain't putting up with shit right now.
Cincinnati, people are protesting. They're just tired of, once again, it's one thing to say, hey, stay at home, social distance. But when you're telling people that they can't use a boat ramp and go out on their boat and be by themselves, maybe with their wife and kid, people they're already locked up with, out in the middle of the lake, not anywhere near anybody, or you're saying, hey, you can't go run on that trail. You have to, like here in Florida, we have hey, please stay at home as much as you can. When you go out, social distance, which by the way, no one here is. No one's wearing a mask. But they let us run. Like tonight, I was running, right? And I was kind of expecting to get in a fight. I was running. And the nice thing about social distancing up until tonight, prior to this, anytime I go running, when I'm passing people, I'm like running on the edge of the sidewalk, damn near running on the grass. And like if I'm running downtown, usually the assholes, they'll just walk shoulder to shoulder and not give me any room instead of, someone falling back or getting in front of the other one and walking single file so we can share the sidewalk and pass each other. A lot of times they just stand shoulder to shoulder and make me run around the grass. Tonight, I was running, and there's 2 guys were on a bike, and they were in a single file line. And I'm like, cool, they're on the left side, I'm on the right side. As I get closer to him, the one in the back pulls up and goes shoulder to shoulder with his buddy. And he sees me coming. As I run past him, about walking on the grass, I said, thanks for the room. And I kept running. I was just waiting to get like punched in the back of the head. But it's like, come on, you guys are on a bike. You're riding single file. Why do you got to get shoulder to shoulder now as I'm trying to pass you?
And the thing is the 6 foot separation. That's only if you're standing still. If you're running or on a bike or on a motorcycle, those distances grow.
Yeah, here's a fun game I like to do. When you're passing people, hold your breath. I hold my breath before I start, and like I'll keep running, and I usually turn my head the opposite direction. So if they're on my left, I'll look down to the right and hold my breath, and then I'll run past them and then breathe again. But it's like just give somebody some room. It's crazy.
Exactly. So, as we know, governors are feeling the heat to reopen from protesters and the president. And this is coming from the Associated Press out of Austin, Texas. Stores in Texas will soon begin selling merchandise with curbside service. Hospitals can resume non-essential surgeries. And in Florida, people are returning to a few beaches and parks. And there are protesters clamoring for more across the country. So the governors are eager to rescue their economies, are feeling the heat of President Donald Trump, are moving to ease the restrictions meant to control the spread of coronaviruses, even as new hotspots emerge. And experts warn that moving fast